my name is Anna. This is the Reckless Garden. Today we are going to be very conscientious though and careful and talk about the seeds that I'm starting in February. So for me, February is a big seed starting time. This is 8 weeks out from my last frost. I'm in US Zone 7A, so my last frost date is somewhere in the first couple weeks of April. That means that right about mid-February is 8 weeks out from the last frost. So it's a perfect time to start a lot of different things inside. I'm going to go through the main categories of plants that I'm going to be starting, and then also some of the specific varieties that I'm going to start as well. So without further ado, let's jump into it. The first big and exciting category of seeds are tomatoes. So most tomatoes recommend that you start them 8 weeks from your last frost. So that's perfect in February for me. One thing that I want to be careful with tomatoes is not starting them too early. I have started tomatoes super early and I have ended up with huge tomato plants, and I just don't have a ton of space inside for massive tomato plants. So I know that if I get my tomatoes started in the middle of February, they're not going to get too large. They're still going to be a decent size when I'm ready to put them outside. And there's always, you know, that little bit of time frame of warm weather where it still can get a little bit cold in the beginning of April, right around your last frost date. So giving myself 8 weeks, I know that even if I have a couple cooler nights, I can at least pot up the plants and put them outside, and maybe put them in the greenhouse if I have a cool night until they're ready to go in the ground. But 8 weeks will be just about perfect for these. I will do a whole second video about the specific varieties of tomatoes that I am starting, but I'm going to be doing some determinate, like tiny little tomatoes, like these micro toms. I'm also going to be doing some determinate tomatoes that are like a slicer type. So, you know, the big old beefsteak tomato. And I've got some cherry tomatoes planned. I grew, I think it was super sweet last year. I really liked this one. I might grow it again. I've ordered Berry's Crazy Cherry, which I hear is a fun variety. So stay tuned. I'm going to do a whole video about starting tomatoes and all the tomato varieties. I'm also going to start my peppers right in the middle of February. Now, peppers are one that people will recommend like 10 weeks before your last frost. I think some packets will even say up to 12 weeks before your last frost. But here's where that weather around your last frost date comes into account. For me, in Zone 7, even though it is usually, you know, no frost, it doesn't mean that it's super warm, and peppers like it really warm. So I find that if I put them out too early, even if it's not getting down to 32 degrees Fahrenheit or 0 Celsius, and freezing them, they're still not growing to their full potential necessarily if I put them out right at the last frost. So this way, if I start them now at 8 weeks, I have a little bit more wiggle room. I'm not going to end up with just absolutely massive pepper plants that I'm like trying to bring inside because the weather's still too cold. So this is kind of like my insurance policy. I do usually wait on my peppers, which is saying something because I like to start things early and I get super excited about starting seeds. But I do wait on the peppers. I'm going to be doing banana peppers. I've got these really fun jigsaw peppers. I'm going to do a whole video about all the peppers I'm starting because I'm really into peppers this year. I've got a lot of different kinds of jalapenos, just a bunch of fun stuff. But peppers, mid-February, that's a great thing for me to start. I'm excited about that. Then the other real veggie category that I'm going to be starting in February are eggplants. For me, they kind of fall along the same line as tomatoes, and that 8 week before the last frost is a perfect time for me to get them going. I have a few different varieties that I'm really excited about. So last year I grew this white knight eggplant and really loved it. It was a super delicious eggplant. It was really easy to cook with. I liked that it was kind of a smaller, skinnier size. It was just a really, really good eggplant. So I'm gonna get those going again this year. And then I got a couple more varieties. So one is a millionaire eggplant, and this one is supposed to be just really, really good yields, and it's supposed to handle the heat a little bit better. I did notice that in the very hottest part of my summer, I had a little bit of a lull in the eggplants and didn't really get some for a while. The plants kind of petered off. So this is supposed to handle the heat. And so hopefully my eggplant harvests will just keep going all the way through the summer. At least I'll have these ones producing, and they're just kind of like that purple, sort of classic looking, but a little, I think like 2 inches wide, a little bit narrower, 8 inches long. Then I'm going to also do a fairy tale eggplant. Now this one is, it's also purple, but it has some like white striping on it. And the fun thing about this is that it's super, super early. So it produces eggplants in 50 days, which is just amazing. This will kind of take care of my early harvest. The millionaire will be through the heat. The white knight will just be nice and consistent. So I think with these 3 kinds of eggplants, I'm gonna have a really, hopefully great eggplant year. So eggplants, you can start them earlier. I think some packets say, 8 to 10 weeks, but again, I wanna make sure it's really nice and warm and conditions are right. I don't wanna have to keep them in the house too long. So I'm gonna start them at 8 weeks out from last frost. And I think that that should work out pretty well, hopefully. Then the last category of plants that I'm going to be starting in February are flowers and ornamentals. First, the ornamental being coleus. Coleus is actually really easy to grow from seed. You see it, everywhere in garden centers, and I wasn't too sure when I first got started seed starting how they would grow, but they are actually a really nice, easy plant. I've never had an issue with coleus, and a real money saver because I like to have a lot. I like to do like a big drift of coleus, and this way I can just start my own from a packet of seeds. I'm gonna do a mighty mosaic, which is a real pretty multicolored leaf, and then also a great exhibition limelight, which is like that lime classic chartreuse coleus. You can start them up to 12 weeks before your last frost, but again, I find that once you get them out there, they grow so quickly. I had coleus that I think last year I started maybe even as late as the end of March, and they still by mid-season were doing great and looking beautiful and perfectly large. So I know that once they're in a nice warm soil and everything's going well outside, they'll be fine. So 8 weeks should be perfect for the coleus. Super excited to have both those varieties this year. I'm also going to be starting some dahlias from seed. I want to do a whole video about starting dahlias from seed because these are some of my favorite flowers to start from seed, and they're actually pretty easy to get going from seed. And of course, dahlias are just amazing. So I have this cactus, I have a decorative blend, which is a real nice, tall, decorative blend. Just, yeah, multicolored, really pretty blend. And then I have a Figaro mix, which I grew last year, which is a little bit shorter. It's like just a couple feet tall, but really pretty whites and kind of oranges and yellows. Beautiful, full, double flower. So I'm gonna get those dahlias started inside just to give them a head start. You almost could probably do these direct sow, but I think that just getting them a little bit of a way ahead and then making sure, the slugs and bugs and things don't eat them, just get those seedlings going. I'm also going to start a few kinds of celosia. These are all really pretty. You can direct sow these, but I think, just to get a jump start on the season, it'll be good to get them going. I've got a dwarf mix, which I'm gonna try in some containers. Flamingo, because how can you not grow that? How pretty is that? Absolutely gorgeous. And then this Pampas Plume tall. I think I'm gonna do this over at my garden plot, and I'm super excited about those because they just look gorgeous. So I'll get those started inside in February. I'm also going, and this is a brand new plant, I'm going to start some safflower. I don't know a whole lot about it, but I want to give myself the best chance possible. So it recommends to start 6 to 8 weeks before your last frost. So that means February for me as well. Definitely that's something, if you're brand new to seed sowing, read the back of your seed packet. A lot of times they'll say preferred, like they'll have direct sow outside, they'll have the instructions, direct sow inside, and one of them will be preferred. If you have space to start your plants inside, it's really nice. It gives you just a little bit of a head start, but safflowers. And then I'm also going to start some gomphrena. I actually have another pack of gomphrena on the way, but I did start some of this in January, and then I'm just kind of curious to see what the difference will be if I start some in February, kind of testing this out since it's actually my first year growing gomphrena from seed. So I'm going to throw a few more of these in. I also have this now feeling like I want to make sure I have enough gomphrena in the garden this year. So I'm going to start a few more of these. This is the QIS Fiery Sunrise Blend. Beautiful. So those are the seeds I am starting in February. So it's going to be tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, and then different annual flowers that just need a head start. And that's what I'm going to stick with for February. I have a whole nother round of plants that I'm going to be starting in March. And so I'll let you guys know what those plants are, but that's just kind of how I break it out just by month. I did do a video, I'll link it, about all the plants, flowers, mostly flowers and herbs that I started inside in January. So you can definitely check that out too if you're interested. Thank you so much for watching. I will talk to you in the next one. Bye-bye.